This
All right, all right. Another episode of The Void. New broadcast
ever
touch Raw in Trump Studios. Welcome to another episode of The Void. As always, well, not always, but as per usual, we have Seprock Beats on the beats. We have a link in the description for his Bandcamp. So tonight I was possibly going to have a guest, Bo Manning, friend of mine and friend of the show, previous guest, etc. Uh, we'll see. I have not heard from him for confirmation, but looks like we do have one person on Facebook, one person on YouTube. Welcome, very, very unique people on this earth. Two out of all of the billions of people on this earth. All right, so let's see. So he wanted to actually jump on the show to talk about the effect of divorce on kids. Pretty deep topic. Um, like step parents having being a step kid, stuff like that. So we'll see if he. Let me get his camera on. We'll see if he is able to jump in and Skype in and join the show. And by the way, if you want to Skype in, there's a Skype link right there for you in the description. If you're joining from YouTube or from Facebook, looks like we have one person on our YouTube feed. Now nobody on Facebook. Sorry, Facebook, for disappointing. Got one person just jumped on. Thank you for tuning in for the moment, even if it is for a fleeting moment. Got two people jump in. Yeah. So I mean, the topic is not hard and fast. Maybe Bo will call in or Skype in, etc., and I'll be able to bring him into the feed and whatnot. But that's what he wanted to talk about. I don't know the exact, like the specifics, like if he had specific issues he wanted to bring up, but I'll let him do that. But if you guys want to talk about something, yeah, if you guys want to talk about something, having or whatever you guys want to talk about. But if you do have a opinion about the effect of divorce and being a step kid or step parent or whatever perspective you want, go for it. I actually am a product of the divorced family. So my parents split when I was 4, so I was pretty young. And then I had basically, step in my case, I had stepmother. But I look back on it now, everybody's family and whatnot. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not like super close with anybody. I think everybody, if they're being honest with themselves and everyone else, would also agree that I'm not super close with anybody in the family. Pretty close with a couple folks, I guess, closer than others, but not as close as I'd like to be. So working on that, little by little, working on that. But anyway, let's see. So I mean, I think one of the biggest points that we had to probably make at the end of the day, and hopefully he does come on the show. I think one of the biggest points was how childish the parents act in a divorce or something like that. And the effect that can have on the kids, and especially if they're using the kids to punish the other parent or the other person, stuff like that. That kind of stuff can wear everybody out, and kids aren't dumb, and I think parents underestimate kids a lot of times. with the buffoonery. Buffoonery, I tell you, buffoonery. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I didn't really have any specific thing uh, about um, about that to put in, but he did say he wanted to sort of leverage my experience with it. I can tell you that that it does add drama if you have parents that are, I guess, susceptible to drama. The kind that either create drama or I don't know. They almost always say they don't thrive on drama or they hate drama, and then they're really in denial most of the time, causing half the drama themselves. But yeah, put some comments in live chat. I'm looking at it, monitoring. Skype in if you want, if you have a comment about that. Otherwise, if there's something else that's on your mind, one person on YouTube, super fan, tuning in on YouTube, go ahead and throw something in. Let us know what's on your mind. Two folks right now on Facebook. Let us know what's on your mind. Thanks for tuning in and checking out. It's like I don't know. There's a million shows, a million things, billion things out there for you to be competing that's competing with your time and attention right now. And I thank you for tuning in and giving some to me. And so, I mean, the whole point of this show is basically to be, in some effect, a fellowship of people. So we talk about things that are on each other's minds and sort of try to parse out some of the truths that we can see as a group. So we can tackle some really complex topics. We can controversial, really is what I was trying to say. Controversial topics. Nothing's off limits because anything that's in our reality, we do have to discuss and sort of come up with some kind of we got to come up with some kind of way of living through this reality together, right? So let's talk about it. All right. So Freddie, thank you, Freddie, for tuning in, man. Awesome guy. And Louis V joining it. Looks like he tuned in as well. Um, Freddie, you're my bro. God is always good always. There you go. Awesome. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for leaving a comment. But yeah, lots of stuff. I don't know, lots of stuff going on. I'm sure. I've actually been sort of taking a break from the news. I mean, some stuff leaks in here and there. I know Trump's going crazy about this and that, about the impeachment thing. He just had a tirade about Adam Schiff. I don't know what's going on with that. I don't know. I think that this whole administration has a made it so people are just tired of this shit and they're like, what the fuck ever. I don't care what's going on. What the fuck? It's like it's a big club and you ain't in it. I think people dream as if they're part of it, but they're not part of it. There's just people up there. It doesn't matter if it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump or somebody. There's corruption all over the place. A bunch of rich people buying influence, probably blackmailing each other with sex slaves. I don't know. And then if anybody that tries to do anything about it, then they're crazy. So, I don't know. I don't know. So Louis V, I did see in on Facebook, Louis V posted a meme, and I've seen this before. I think I've actually shared this meme before, where there's like a slaughterhouse, and the slaughterhouse says left and right, and it's like a little partition. but it all eventually leads to the same end for the cattle, whether they took the left or the right partition. To some degree, you're right. There's a controlled, you probably heard about, what do they call that? The Overton window. That term's been floating around a little bit lately. The Overton window is basically what is acceptable discourse? What can you talk about? Like, for instance, if I talked about starting a communist revolution, that would be definitely outside on the left-hand side of the Overton window. If I said that we should create a white ethno-state or half Asian ethno-state, how about that? If I said all the half-seas, let's just include all half-seas. All the half-seas should band together and create an ethno-state. That would, and then we should like eradicate all other races and stuff like that. That would be to the right of the Overton window, even though that's not white supremacy, it's half-sea supremacy. It would still be, like a fascist movement, a right-wing movement. And so that would be to the right and outside of the acceptable realm of speech in the Overton window. And what we've seen is in the left-right Overton window, there is a slaughterhouse. You're right, because the discourse about what is, like, for instance, left discourse, a lot of times, there's a contrived caricature of quote unquote left discourse in that it's talking about whether or not enough, official documents use the gender neutral pronoun they or some shit like that or whatever, or if whether or not Raytheon and other the weapons contractors are headed by women versus men, and things like that. And then that sort of sets this tone for what's acceptable to talk about. Talking about stuff like Medicare for all, really, there's a lot of forces out there trying to shape the Overton window to make that really far to the left, even though that's a common practice outside of, the United States. It's, there's a lot of forces out there that can pay with influence that they have. Because, really, you got to think about it. How much does it cost to get someone to do something for you, even if it was illegal? How much would it really cost for someone to get you to do something illegal? Number one, I guess that's one question you could ask. Number two, how much would it cost for you to get someone to do it? I'm sure there's someone desperate enough to do almost anything you want for 10 bands. Someone will do something crazy without implicating your name. So you know what I mean? That's whatever. So yeah, the Overton window can be shifted one way or another, and I think within that discourse, yes. However, I think what it does is it truly masks the revolutionary spirit. And what does that mean? Okay, so the actual definition of right and left is right wing is the maintenance of the status quo. When right, quote unquote, the term right wing and left wing were used, those were that was from the French Revolution. People that wanted to overthrow the monarchy were on the left. People wanted to uphold the monarchy and keep feudalism were on the right. So people that want to maintain whatever traditional or status quo or bring back a tradition from before, those are conservatives by definition, but that is to the right. That is a right-wing thing. The idea of making America great again, as in a herald to the past, a call to the past, that is a right-wing conservative type of thing by definition. For instance, so left-wing isn't really about whether or not enough LGBT rights are going on, or whether or not enough people with afros or are professors and stuff, which is the common narrative. It's like the caricatured narrative of left discourse within the Overton window. And so to go to Louis V's question there, basically that in of itself, that meme in of itself, is an obfuscation of the truth. To say that both the left and the right will lead you to slaughter is not necessarily true when the current state of being is in effect a slaughterhouse. The only way is to try to change. And so the true definition would be, the left would be to try to dig yourself under the fence to get away from the slaughterhouse. That would be a change from the status quo. As it is, the discourse of left and right within the normal Overton window is leading us to the slaughterhouse. So that is true in the meme, but in reality, true change is going to come from real leftist discourse. So, for instance, I'm a Bernie Sanders fan, but I'm actually to the probably really, within technical guidelines of what is left and right, I'm to the left of Bernie Sanders. So what's that really mean? With the way I talk about the future, or really what's probably going to happen, is there's going to be a need for a revolution. What would a post-revolution vision be? I can sort of come up with a post-revolution vision. To speak in those terms and be like that is to the left of in the Overton window. So now I'm going to sound like a crazy revolutionary weirdo. So be it, whatever. But I mean, that's what left-right slaughterhouse is. So to Louis V's point. So I don't know if Louis V is the one person still on Facebook checking out the show. By the way, thank you for checking out. Thank you, Superfan on YouTube, for checking out the show. Leave some comments. Hopefully my live comments are working. Let's see. Let's try that out. So hopefully that answered your question about the left and right. If you guys have any questions about left, right, politics stuff, whatever, Bo was supposed to call me and be on the show, but he might be busy. I think he had to work tonight, and he was going to call me on a break. All right, let's see if this live comments, looks like live comments are working. So please go ahead and throw a comment in and join the combo. So thanks, Louis V, for your entertaining question. But yeah, hopefully we'll come up with something. Let me take a look here. Might just have to find something. I know there's always some crazy kookiness going on my Facebook. I got kicked off Twitter a while back. I don't know if you guys remember that. I made fun of Bill O'Reilly. I've been kicked off of Twitter for like 2 months now. Pretty much 2 months. All right, here we go. What kind of crazy stuff is happening on the Facebook feed? Because sometimes there's some crazy stuff. Unless, here we go. Let's get some commentary from interesting. All right, here's something. In case we don't get any comments, but it looks like we do have something from Louis V. Got an extra person on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. Louis V, I know that hilarious. I didn't know that hilarious. What? Yeah. I don't know what he means by that. maybe you can elaborate, Louis V. But yeah, what was I gonna say? If we're looking at if we're looking for true change, it's not, this whole narrative. Oh, a thing about Twitter. Yeah, fucking Twitter. Yeah, they kicked me out. I mean, I'm not copied. Well, yeah, pretty much copied. I did a homage reference to the freaking to the Office, and I said, O'Reilly, you ignorant slut, and I said some other shit, and it wasn't even that bad. I said he should retire. I guess that's ageist. Some fucking shit. I don't know. How about this? Fucking King Leopold versus Hitler. Here's an Indica Pharaoh posing this question upon us. Very interesting question. One of these men murdered 10 million Europeans, the other murdered 15 million Africans. We were only taught about one. Why? Interesting question. King Leopold in Belgium killed a bunch of people in Africa, and was some pretty crazy shit. People getting their hands chopped off for not producing enough, and crazy slave labor, all that kind of mess. So why is one so lauded and vilified versus the other one who sort of gets a little bit of a pass? Perhaps. I don't know. Perhaps some people can weigh in on that. I mean, I have my sneaky suspicions, but what does that mean? It doesn't mean 100% anything. Um, but let's see what you guys think about that. There's one thing. How about that? Um, what other items then, if you have no commentary about that question that was posed? I think we all know why. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Africa has never really been given much uh, equal status or stature to Western nations. So something that happens to a Western nation and the inhabitants therein, and of course, Africans not being white, that's also a thing. Just because that's just you know part of this country. It's just a thing. It's like when you have your dad that's a mob boss. It's like, hey, your dad's a mob boss. What are you gonna do about it? So you can either keep being in the mob or you stop being in the mob. So, let's stop, right? That's my vote. Let's stop. And some people are like voting, no, let's screw that. We're the best mob but boss family there's ever been. Like, fuck that nonsense. We're making the most money we've ever made. We're the most powerful we've ever been. Why would we stop now? I'm like, how do you argue against that? I personally feel like we should do the right thing. What does that mean? That is a questionable question at this point in time. We don't have a shared sense of what the right thing is anymore. Crazy stuff. Just stuff that's just crazy going on. What are your thoughts? To throw in the comments, or also you can Skype in and let us know what you think. All right, so uh, let's see what's going on here. How about? Oh god. About to have computer problems here in a minute. If you guys hear those sounds, okay. Okay, by the way, my computer is about to die probably, so you never know when it will die. How about this one? Remember this case when this lady cop busts into this dude's apartment and then shoots him because she thought she was in her apartment or some crap. I don't know. Oh my God. Anyway, that's a crazy thing. Can you imagine cop busts in your house, shoots you? I mean, I guess you don't really care if you're dead, what happens to said cop, but I mean, God, what a crazy notion to be in your house and then bam, cop pops in and you die. You get shot up. Has to be more of that story. I think there is more to that story. I read it. I remember reading it back in the day. I heard something about they had a relationship or something that went sour and do. But I don't know. So maybe someone could fill us in. I just think that still, at the end of the day, whatever it is, you know, even if he was playing his music loud or something, like, come on, you can't just like be okay with police popping in and saying, yo, here we go, blah, blah, blah. But maybe there's more to it. So let's see what's going on. What else? I don't know. I think it's I think there's a lot of crazy things. A lot of crazy things going on. We got a president that's like unhinged, man. I mean, he speaks like he's like not an educated person, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not. I mean, shouldn't we have the leaders of our country be like, I don't know, not even, I mean, educated. What is that? Not even educated in a accredited sense. Like he has such terrible grammar, and he's just, and he's unhinged as a person. I don't get it. Whatever. All right. McLouis V says Trump 2020 a realistic possibility. What's your take? Yeah, I think it is a realistic possibility. I think there's no unified situation going on the quote unquote. I guess if you want to say left, something the non-Trump world. I don't know. I don't know what the unifying voice is. I don't know. I'm almost with the accelerationists on this. Let there be a Trump 2020. Let it get worse. Let the rhetoric get worse. Let the divide in the country get worse. Let's just do it. Let's just pull the Band-Aid and let it happen. What else are we going to get? If it's not Trump, what are we going to get? I mean, maybe Bernie Sanders could win. But I don't know. I mean, Americans are still so trained to be Democrats or Republicans, nothing in between, nothing else at all. So if Bernie doesn't become the Democrat, I don't know that any of the other candidates are going to solidify a base enough to fight Trump. and Trump 2020 might come back. And let's face it, the world of of politics, of the levers of power are so far divorced from most people that would be Trump supporters anyway, that it's just like watching wrestling or something. It doesn't really matter. And they'll just read some article written by anybody, and if it says the word freedom in it, or American, or patriot, or something like that as a source, they'll just do that. I mean, that's just what's going to happen, because it doesn't matter. That's the kind of world we live in. All right, let's see what's going on here. Wow, look at hold on a second. I've got a crazy thing happening here. For some reason in my live stream, Freddie Perez says, Freddie says Trump going to win. I think he's right. I mean, I don't want to win personally, but I don't think there's enough. Maybe if maybe if Bernie gets it, then Trump will be defeated. But Bernie's going to be not going to be able to have any power. The House and the Senate aren't going to back him unless a political revolution, which it might be on its way. It might be on its way. But I don't know. There's a lot of McLouis V. Boyd 2034, Boyd 20. Dude, I can't even grow this channel past 100 subscribers yet. I think I got like 46, 47. So I don't think a political ticket is in the future. Now, someday, if this podcast catches traction or something, then sure, let's talk about that. But dude, I would be willing. I would be willing to take the hits and answer the questions and do the press conferences and whatever the shit. Find out about the aliens, whatever I got to do. I don't know. What do you really got to do? Come on. If Trump can do it, who can't do it? I trust practically anybody. The Trump fans, when people say, you just don't like Trump because this and that, I'm like, no, you don't understand. I would rather you be president than Trump, because Trump's a moron. There's some Trump fans that don't realize that they're smarter than the president is. And then that makes me wonder about them. But then sometimes people get trapped in these mind things. I think some of that has to do with emotions and identity, who they identify with. It becomes the ultimate identity politics. I'm right wing, I'm left wing, I believe in this conservative, I believe in liberal, I'm fiscally this, or I'm socially that, and I'm that's bullshit. So I don't know. But Freddie says he don't have any candidate. Yeah, there's no candidate against him, really. I mean, other than Bernie. And I think Bernie, I don't know that he's able to fight off the naysayers enough, to be honest with you. They're already calling him socialist and this and that, and the people, I don't know. Like I said, I am technically, by definition, to the left of Bernie, which is technically socialist. So yes. So being one, I can tell you that he is not. Maybe he is deep down, but he's not on his platform for president. So whatever. But yeah, I do have some ideas, McLouis V, about a lot of things. And there may be some, I don't know, there's some isolationist tones in some of the things that I would say, but there would be a massively big, there There would be a major shift in the paradigm between workers and the owners of the businesses and what that means, how that works, tax schedules and whatnot. That kind of thing. That would probably be the biggest thing. I would be hated by the rich people and loved by the labor force. And then, I don't know, probably talked shit about by whoever. Depends on who the prevailing voice is in the future, really. McLouis V says, you have to be willing to do what Clinton did, sexualize the Oval Office. Well, I don't think that's... I don't know what that... I don't know what that means. If that means that I have to find my Monica Lewinsky, I think the girlfriend would be mad about that. But, you know, hey, if it wins the office, perhaps she'll understand. No, I'm just kidding. All right, so, very good. MC Louis V. I thought it was McLouis V. Sorry. MC Louis V. MC Louis V. Sorry about that. Yeah, so I don't know, man. Politics is such a weird thing. I hate politics. I hate the deal of trying to create like fake like alliances for this or that, or we'll do this and that's a strategy bullshit. I mean, we are dealing with real people, real lives of a real nation, real shit, and people play with it like it's a game. I hate that shit, but it makes me want to participate in it because, you know, it's like that mantra that where they say the people that want it are the people that you don't want to do it, and it's really the people that don't want to do it that should probably do it, which I would totally you know, elect, or, you know, as I run into people, I suggest that they run for something or that they do something, like, and everybody actually get more involved in politics, local politics, all politics. And I think that's the problem. We've been sort of tricked into keeping our noses to the grindstone. And I've said this before, while we're keeping our noses to the grindstone, we are being pilfered. And we're working hard for our families, and we've got martyrdom syndrome. We've got a culture where we kill ourselves to provide for our families, where sometimes our families just want us to be provided for them. Like they want to spend time with the human being, the dad, the mom, the brothers, the sisters. You know, that's what they want. They don't want the toys as much or whatever, the money, the time spent away. And we have this like martyrdom syndrome that's going on. And I think it's dangerous for all of us. I think it's leading to suicides. I think it's leading to isolation, alienation, the breakup of more families, a lot of things. And more and more, we've grown to see each other as competition as opposed to cooperation. So that's probably what's wrong with most of the world. But yeah, I mean, McLouis V or MC Louis V, I totally would love to run for president. I would need a campaign staff, so if you want to be my manager, please let me know, and we can work something out. MC Louis V. And then, but yeah, I don't know. It looks like Bo is not going to be calling in. And you know what? I don't know. What are your thoughts, MC Louis V, on what's going on? Looks like we got one more person, probably Louis V, on Facebook. Thank you for tuning in on both YouTube and Facebook. Increasing my viewership, I see. Yeah, I mean, we need to get this spread a little bit better. I mean, that's my fault. I really need to work on spreading it out. You know, maybe part of me is afraid. Am I afraid to put the show out there in the world? Maybe not. But I do need to start spreading it out. If you guys got some tips and tricks or want to help spread the show around. Again, this is a place that we can have some discourse about real shit, and it's not about left or right, it's about real truth. And here's the thing, if the thing that you push or believe causes you to have to lie at all to defend it, stop it. Stop defending things that make you lie or turn into a psychopath or an asshole. And you're like, this isn't me. Don't do that. So if whatever the position of the issue it is, you know, yeah, just don't pilfer the campaign donations, you know, or something like that. I trust you, Louis V. But, you know, I got one eye on you. MC Louis V. Shit, I can't remember what I was gonna say. Anyway, but yeah, this is we're supposed to be, you know, let's talk about issues, especially if you guys know some people who like to debate about whatever the issue is. Let's bring up the issue. Let's talk about it, and you know, let's debate it, whatever it might be. So you know what I feel like, especially I feel like I want to talk to some of those. This is the oxymoron. I feel like the libertarian military member. Here they are, anti-government libertarians, and they're part of the military. I see these guys. There's There's one of them I see on my Facebook feed, and if I find them, I'll share it. Libertarian shares all these libertarian memes, very libertarian in his ways of doing his libertarian thing, and military members. So I don't understand how that works, but you know, anti-government, this and that, but totally fine. Making a living off the teat of the taxpayer. Teat of the taxpayer. And you know, I'm not against the military to say that they simply live on the teat of the taxpayer, which they really do, which is okay. That's okay. Louis V, let me change my hat. I don't know what that means, but anyway. So yeah, that's what the show's about. So spread it around, bring some people that want to talk about some kind of issue, and we'll get down to the nitty gritty of that issue. A lot of times, we can find some common ground, and there is oftentimes a mischaracterization of a position or a straw man being presented, and we can flush that out, and you'll see that wow, some things make more sense than others. It's like, well, you know, we don't really have to make this into more than that. But again, that's where identity comes in and people's identities. I'm a conservative. I'm a liberal. What does that mean? I don't even know. Libertarian hat. Oh, he has a libertarian hat. Hey, you know what? You can be libertarian, which I still would sort of laugh at this point in right now. You just the libertarian. If libertarianism stopped at just limited government, then it'd be okay. But the way, I mean, most of them are like anarcho-capitalist, basically. That's just terrible. At the end of the day, it's like dystopian syndicates that'll be running things and like large clusters of money to people that basically run the world. It's like oligarchy heaven. Is the just libertarianism. Now, if you're if you're a Marxist communist, then you're basically an anarchist communist, stateless, classless society based on cooperative principles. Right there, you go. That's also sort of crazy, right? So, don't get me wrong. I don't go all to whatever. But Louis V says, why did paper fires make Tower 7 fall? Hey, I don't know about that one, dude. I think there's more to the story. I think one of the problems, one of the telling issues that we have at hand right now is the fact that the citizens have no reason to trust their government. We are in a position where we should not trust our government, and it's not a necessarily a paranoid fear because the government has committed infractions. I don't know who gets. Why do certain people get the green light to do just crazy shit? Why? Who gets to just decide that these programs get to just happen, right? So who's orchestrating this shit? Um, I guess every one of them has their own story, but anyway. So yeah, Tower 7, probably an inside shit, man. Oh, who knows? I mean, they probably got that stuff planned out. Maybe the government itself didn't do it, but they probably knew and let it happen. I would not doubt that at all, because they knew it would mobilize a sleeping populace and institute changes before the mass spread of the internet, and lay the framework for increased surveillance through the internet, and to make sure that a potentially angry workforce and public is not allowed to use the internet as a mass mobilization tool against the oligarchy, basically, is what's going on. And there you go. That's my conspiracy theory little rant, which I'm pretty sure is true if you look down, if you distill it down to the core elements of what's happening in material reality. I believe that's what's happening. Something like that. Something like that. But I don't know. I don't know for sure. But anyway, yeah. So Louis V, you can still be libertarian. I still sort of LOL at libertarians just because it's like, come on, man. There's other ways. I mean, I don't trust the government either. We should have limited government and bureaucracy. That's 100% true. However, there are some things that I think the government we can collectively do better than the quote unquote market can do. Like, for instance, helping out mentally ill people, helping out the hungry and the homeless, those kinds of things. Capitalism and the market don't have solutions to that. So we should come up with some solutions to that. And actually, there are some possible solutions to that in market socialism, where you guarantee workers equity over time in whatever business that they're part of. So if, let's say, the equity threshold's like 5 years or 3 years, once you cross that vesting time, you should be vested in some level of equity in whatever your business is. And that way, after 10 years, 20 years of working there, you can now quit that job and get some kind of dividend income, or you can cash in your shares and get a capital inflow. And that should not be outside that should be outside compensation, not something you have to buy with your compensation. That should simply be part of the arrangement between capital or the businesses and the workers. They're the ones that help build that business. And if it also addresses automation, because the workers that had built the business are the ones that built the profit enough to automate in the first place. So for them to have ownership in the process of automation means that they get vacation and still get dividend income, or they still get some level of equity in the business, and therefore share of the profits, which would include the reduction in their labor price. So moving to that kind of platform, that would stop a lot of issues, but that's not on the ticket. That's not something we talk about. When we talk about socialism, we talk about really what we are really, in fact, talking about is state capitalism, where the state is the capitalist enterprise and uh, the citizens are the workers within the state-owned capitalist enterprise. That is not what we're talking about doing, or I would talk about doing. If I was running for office, that's what I would be championing. It would change some shit around. Basically, which we would favor cooperatives in the tax schedule, and disfavor corporations in the tax schedule, and other things. And I would reduce taxes, especially on cooperative organizations. And I would find ways to create tax-free income, in fact, for creators of cooperative enterprises. So there's a lot, and we can also look at reduction of government services within the creation of this market socialism, where people eventually become owners of the businesses that they're part of, that they're laboring for. I mean, talk about loyalty. If you had that built into your business, you would be building a massive loyalty. But yeah, the problem is business owners wouldn't make as much money. The shareholders would not make as much money, and they would not be the priority. And the workers would have more of a say and democratic control, and that's a problem to people who just want to extract the most money they possibly can. And we're seeing the effects on society. We can actually start seeing a reduction in government services if people had equity to fall back on in some of these companies that they're part of, that their labor helped build, and had dividend income from ownership in these companies that their labor helped build. Some people might not have to, if they did, let's say, end up, I don't know, having medical issues or something like that, which that shouldn't bankrupt anyone anyway. But that they might be able to contribute more anyway because they are making more money. So they're able to help through taxation to some degree, pay for some extra government services, etc. Or they might not need it in the first place because they have funding from whatever business they were part of in the first place. So it actually would take pressure off of the government. And that's really the big thing, is you have owners and executives within the ownership structure and top management structure that take massive amounts of the profit, and also shareholders that's not going to the workers. So that's really where we're having a lot of problems. What's up, Chris? Superfan Chris made it. Looks like Mike, Superfan Mike made it. What's up? What's up, Mike? So yeah, just just rolling through the show. Well, we just talked about, I don't know, we talked about all sorts of mess. But actually, I was getting close. We're getting close to an hour here. Mark's on. Looks like we got some folks jumping on late to the party. Actually, I was just about to possibly throw on some music and close it out. But you tell me what we're discussing tonight. It looks like we've got a bunch of super fans that came in right at here we are at whatever point this is. So yeah, so man, we've talked about everything from, I don't know, Trump 2020, me running for president. I don't know, too many things, so many things. So yeah. So what's on y'all's mind? We got 5 people now, so that's more people than we've had in a long time. Jumped on to YouTube. Got a couple people on Facebook. What's up, Facebook? Let me know you're here. What is on your mind? Let the folks know, and even if you're gonna just drop a question down and question bomb the show, please do. That's all right. Thank you for tuning in. Looks like we got a couple people that have tuned in. All right, let's see what. Whoa, Chris, dropping a big one. Do you think a civil war will happen? Mark says, let's talk about the best MC in the world. Trump alluded to that the other day. Del the Funky Homeless. I don't think Del the Funky Homeless Savings would be the best MC in the world. But man, I don't know the best MC in the world. That's a tricky question. It's too hard to define best. Everybody it's too hard to define it, and especially now, it's genres are hard to define anymore. Nothing. Who's even the purveyor of anything anymore? Just too many. There's no gatekeepers anymore, so the definitions of things are too open and malleable. So I don't know. It's too hard to say stuff like that. So I don't know. I would actually feel like I have a better sense of whether or not there'll be a civil war than who the best MC is, to be honest with you. See, like Tupac, yeah, he talks about some pretty deep shit, but then you start to, you got to talk about Mos Def, or is it Talib Kweli, of course, because they go hand in hand with the projects they were doing. Or how about some people might even throw Common in there, which I'm not a super Common fan, but they might, or Black Thought. There's always those Eminem fans out there. I'm not a big Eminem fan. So, I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? Top 5, if he's even tough. I like Boots Riley from the Coup. I think he's pretty awesome. I think some of the dudes from Prez are pretty awesome. Would I say they're the best? Maybe not. Some of the best MCs, they don't cover the same topics. They're clever with the wordplay, but some of the topical rappers aren't as clever with their wordplay as some of the other, but they're talking about some real shit. That's why I like Boots, because he comes clever. Talks about how was a line that he says pretty good, like that they said the streets was paved in gold. Whoever paved that shit got minimum wage too. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. Like, yeah, streets are paved in gold. Well, whoever paved that shit got minimum wage. So, I thought that was some pretty poignant shit. He said some other stuff too that was pretty good with the wordplay and on point with sort of like message politically and whatever. Mobb Deep, yeah, Mobb Deep's good too. But those are some guys that, I mean, they weren't super deep with the wordplay, but they had a good cadence, good delivery. I mean, good beat selection. I mean, they were able to do a lot of. I mean, it was just dope. Mobb Deep was just dope. So it's just too hard. Yeah. Never heard of the Boots Riley, man. You got to look up Boots from the Coup, the COUP, the Coup. Yeah, there's some dope songs from the Coup. Let me see if we can find. Let's see what we got. Like funk. Do 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 boom boom do 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 do. Boom boom do 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 do.
You gotta watch how you groove off it, because you can't groove like you normally do. You gotta do it another way.
I used to kick it with a brother named Mo. Mo used to kick it with a brother named Joe. Joe used to kick it with his girlfriend Latisha, whose brother Elmo looked like me. Elmo used to elbow lots of brothers in the nose. Pick him when they down and he still ate shoes and clothes. Elmo would develop lots of beef as a tweaker, and all of them was supposed to come looking for me. Imagine that. Fat motherfuckers with bats trying to rap pack. Time to get a cat, so I'm strapped cause I'm trapped.
I mean, that is one of
Out of the question, if I die by the trigger of a misled brother, could it be judged by the system that is still to be in others? I believe no, so I don't go with the flow, even though I'm about to roll with no paddle. Of a Greek called shit light is lit on the situation. It's me and him gonna decrease the population. Now we wonder why a revolution never grow. Killing motherfuckers if we're stepping on a toe. If it had as much fun for our oppressors as we did for ourselves.
That's like not the right song. Hold on. But maybe it was Dig It. Yeah, this is it.
Presto, read the Communist Manifesto, gorillas in the mix, the Guevara and Emanesto, so
What I with an afro now?
yo, go afloat for the Mac, and we the hoes so grow, cause the Lincoln brothers might get hung. Rhetoric flowing from the tip of my mouth, say tongue deficit.
Money spent
That's the glint.
on my nine as they cut welfare 25%.
And I descent as I clench and raise my
We did
fist.
away with that.
So you could get with this, it's a twist, cause we'll overthrow like Kwame and Kuma. Spread around the world as if it were a business rumor. Bam, cuts a record like a surgeon cuts a tumor from a brain.
We're all cooped up, so feel the pain.
From 400 years of exploitation, anesthesia provided by your local TV station. Patience is not a virtue.
I ain't waiting.
Turn it over like Bush did a boatload of hate. How now, brown down with the Mau clown downtown, try to put us in a dog pound like A-Trap Brown with the situation.
Broken no calluses,
Cause we're spitting dialectical analysis. So how is this? We never had no funk until you found out that our trunks are revolutionary, huh?
Chuck.
Bump you over like dominoes, rat.
So free Geronimo, you jack a prank.
Lyrics, hear it, can't get near it. Got a sample, didn't clear it. Point blank says 5-0, that's the spirit. Cheer it, spat out the fat that I consumed. Knew that I was doomed since my date of birth to be the wretched of the earth. Never had a dream that was
They
American.
go to Lake Cherokee,
It's
but
arrogant.
that ain't nothing new.
Told the streets will pay, but go whoever paid that
Minimum wage, too.
There you go. Boots Riley. Hyro, of course. Hyro's awesome. AZ dropped some dope shit. I mean, some people drop some dope shit, like a couple dope verses, and some people are very prolific. Tough to say with those things. Yeah, Mobb Deep though, they're pretty good. That he is West Coast. Oh wait, no, shit, Boots. I think Boots is from LA. Yes. I'm pretty sure it's West Coast. Yeah. At least what I just played. The Coup. The Coup also did the Guillotine song. We Got the Guillotine. Some of you guys might know that song. For instance, some of you guys might have heard this song before.
guillotine, you better run. We got the guillotine. We got the guillotine, you better run. We got the guillotine. We got the guillotine, you better run.
We wanna thank you for flying with us. We know you could've stayed home, just cried and cussed. May all your guns go off and like tanks have time to rust. They got the armies turning bullets into gold. They got the hookers turning tricks into cold. And every time the police kicks in the dough, an angel gas breaks hits in the O. And even if a D-boy flicks in my O, it ain't enough to buy shit anymore. Sleep in the doorway, piss on the floor. Look in the sky, wait for missiles to show. It's finna blow, cause they got the TV, we got the truth. They own the judges and we got the proof. We got hella people, they got helicopters, they got the bombs, and we got the
guillotine. We got the guillotine, you better run. We got the guillotine. We got the guillotine, you better run. We got the guillotine. We got the guillotine, you better run. We got the guillotine. We got the guillotine, you better run. Talk about it. I show. Be about it. I know. Talk about it. I show. Be about it. I know.
I just spit the dope lines. I don't snort them. Tell the boss to call police to escort them. You don't write out them lies, you just quote them. Get offline, plug into this modem. No, you can't outvote them. The rules are still golden. On the jewels we holding, disregarding our scrolling. If you press the ear to the turf that is stolen, you can hear the sound of limitations exploding. Please, sir, man, we
got stopped with all this. They detected me in the detector. Oh no, I don't know what that means. But yeah, the coup. But yeah, they're pretty good. But it's too hard to say. Who is it? There's another guy that, man, he was always nice on the cameos, but then he's always sucked. Like if you ever try to make an album, there's a few people like that. Damn, who was it? I know like AZ did one, and I think he had a verse on the Nas-Illmatic. Was it AZ? I think it was. Lovely verse, and he's actually a pretty decent rapper, and then it just was like, eh. So I don't know, man. Too hard to say. All right, MC Louis V says, are you using Instagram, try to spread attention to the show? I have been using Instagram to a limited degree. I didn't do Instagram whatever promotion this go around. I really didn't do any promotion this go around. I just was like, you know what, I'm doing the show. I'm doing the show tonight. We'll see who the hardcore fans are, and here you are tonight. Because I didn't do any promo on this. My fault. But there's a lot going on. I've been busy, and it's just, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, is it worth even doing the show? And I say yes, that it's worth it. At the end of the day, someone's going to want to talk about some shit and get some shit off their mind. Now, Chris, I didn't forget about your question about, do you think there's going to be a civil war? Why do you ask about that? I guess that's my question, because you're not the first person to bring that question and topic up. So let me ask you, why was that the question that you asked? Why did that pop into your mind when when you asked what we were discussing? And I'm like, I don't know. You want to talk about, and you say, do you think a civil war will happen? And that's a pretty deep topic. So what brought that out as a question, I guess, would be my first question before I answer that. But do I think another civil war is upon us, will happen? I think it might be coming. I think there might be something coming. I think I don't know yet though. It hasn't gotten bad enough yet. What'll that be? I don't know. I don't know what the signs will be. I don't know what the indicators will be. I think that right now you have Trump as a great unifier for the quote unquote conservative people. So there's a big block of people that are that way. which may or may not succumb to legislative powers. So let's say, for instance, Trump is voted out of office. There may be a chance that his base will try to force some kind of change. That's not a typical change, or some kind of doctrine which allows him to stay in office or something. That may cause something. I don't know. Maybe more right-wing people start doing some crazy shit, and then people start fighting and preemptively fighting against each other. I don't know. What would that look like? I often wonder, like, what would that look like? Would the roads be closed down? Could you still go to the store? Like, would people wear different clothes to indicate what would the sides even be? What would be the actual side? You know, I don't know. Wow, who would be fighting who? So yeah, there's some cool, good questions. So Mike asked, who would be fighting if there was a civil war? MC Louis V, Civil War Part 2. Not the North and South this time. No, I don't think so. I think, I always thought it would sort of boil down to people who thought that we are a cooperative species versus people who believe we're a competitive species. And of course, we should look at competing against each other to some degree, because there's a lot of slouches out there, and we shouldn't all have to equate to the slouches. Nobody's suggesting that. However, I think that we also should help work with each other, and if there are a bunch of slouches, we work with them somehow as a society, as opposed to like letting them die on the street and whatever. So I don't know. MC Louis View, Jacksonville versus everybody. Mike says Jacksonville wins. Yeah, maybe. Could. Depends on if we can secure a chunk of the military force or not. I don't know. I think that, I'm starting to wonder, though, with this sort of, I don't want to say rise of socialism, but like this sort of the acceptance of looking into what socialism is. I think that's possibly going to create a change. So, for instance, if this show gets bigger and bigger, and there's more of a viewership and more influence, and I'm pushing for things like changing wage relation with capital, there's just like a change. We could either change legislatively or change by force, right? So it's just like getting rid of chattel slavery. When you say, hey, you're not allowed to own other people anymore. That is not a rule that we're going to allow. By rule, we're going to say you're not allowed to do that anymore. This is on the same kind of level. Like, you're not allowed to buy people hours at a time or buy them by chunks at a time. I mean, that's still going to happen. I'm not saying it wouldn't happen, but you wouldn't have people working for a company for 20 years or 10 years or something, and then not having anything at the end of the day for it. So I think that the Civil War, quote unquote, Civil War, might be possibly fought on the grounds of what would more or less be a socialistic type of divide. So either the people who want to keep us going back towards the cycle of, how far are we gonna, if we could slowly inch towards it, how far as a society would we go back to pre-labor rights working conditions? And we're already got people working multiple jobs. We already have people with kids that want to go to work to help with the family. We're slipping backwards into a time where we have an uneducated public that it will do anything for some little chunk of change, and People are dying at the end of the day. They don't have health insurance. They don't have money. I mean, we're seeing old diseases coming back. This is a cycle. All the while, the rich people, the oligarchs, make money. So when crash happens, when your children are starving, when something happens, when you lose your house, the rich people still are fine. The bankers are fine, and they are okay when these things happen. So as long as we keep this paradigm going, it's going to be a cycle. It's going to be a cycle until the laborers fight it, and then they fight it, and then the capitalists make a little bit less money for a while, and then they keep eroding like they're doing now. And meanwhile, while they erode it, they get more profits, and then they'll keep doing it and doing it and doing it until labor force fights. And of course, fighting is very risky for the participants. You could die, you could be put in jail, you could be blacklisted, your family could be implicated, all of these things. So of course, they will keep pushing and pushing because the public is already meant to be docile and trained to be docile. So they will keep extracting as much as they can. So this cycle will continue one way or another, back and forth, like it has through history until we stop it. So if it were going to happen, I think it would happen possibly on those grounds that we're going to make a social change where the majority of people are looking at a system that is by its essence broken. There's just broken with it. So Chris says, I'll put my money on the northwest side of Jax and Lackawanna versus everybody. Damn, just a part of them. Goons out there. Chris says we are well past due for something like a civil war to happen again. And in all honesty, we sort of are past due. I think a lot of countries around the world have had some level of war occur in their borders, and we never have, and other than civil war, and a lot has changed since the founding documents were put in place. The living document of the Constitution is also showing some of its flaws. And I think we really need to start thinking about a new way of being as human beings and what we really want as humans for the future. We don't have to create an extreme to do this, make it work. We don't have to create extremes. We can do small things, small, poignant things that can make changes for the future at some point. But I think, Chris, I agree. We are past due for civil war. I think on the socialist versus non-socialist type of, when I say socialist, I'm talking about giving people communities, giving workplaces, places like that, democratic control instead of singular hierarchical control over everything, and then also to some degree ownership, but not in the state capitalist, totalitarian, authoritarian way, because that's not democratic. The first thing I said was democratic, so we can't contradict that. But I think there might be a dividing line between, like I said, between the co-ops and the comps, the competitives. There's certain people that are basically almost sociopathic in the way they're like, whatever. If someone can't find a living wage and they die, then there's one less worker, so the market corrects their wages. That's pretty sociopathic. We don't want to that's a libertarian take. So MC Louis V, if you are still on, you have to defend the libertarian. You don't have to defend it. I'm just saying, as a libertarian, that's what I'm saying. Some of that stuff is sort of kooky. You would have to defend full market control over stuff like starvation wages and stuff like that. All right, Chris says, not necessarily war of death, or fighting one another, but something more so towards overthrowing the government and changing how we live. Well, how do you have an overthrow of the government without fighting and violence? I don't think you can. Maybe. I just don't. I don't see it. I don't see it. I think there's too much. By default, there's too much violence and what is it? The bias towards weaponry and lashing out physically on the conservative right-wing side of things, which I think is by design. So any mode of change. So to Chris's point, the want to overthrow the government, in that sense, it's a grand contradiction, right? The grand contradiction of the right is their hatred of the government, yet they will uphold the structures of the government. So they will pedantic in their citation of rule of law and of the government, while simultaneously hating the government, while simultaneously loving elements of the government like the military and the police, while also simultaneously fighting to maintain the government that they hate such. So it's but they are that contradiction's lost on them because they've created a caricature of the left in their brain that they stick to, because there's, I don't know, maybe because of the encouragement for anti-intellectualism that to them it's embarrassing or dumb or bad to be smart. I don't know what the problem is, but Chris says there will be casualties for sure. But I'm saying you can't really overthrow the government without how, unless it's a left-wing government and the right-wing people want to overthrow the left-wing government. Then you have a civil war in your hands, and that might be the impetus right there. Or we have a. I don't think the left is going to mobilize. I think it's going to be a right-wing move, and then the left will mobilize in response to a right-wing shift, because the ultra right will be a minority, but you only need about 3 to 5% of the population to make major social change, really, and they're more than that. And if it spreads throughout the Trump base, it's like a third of the population. So who freaking knows what would happen in that case? And they still have a grand majority, but a lot of people are going to sit out. So out of that majority of people, not a large majority is going to be an active member of the left to fight the right wing. And typically the government's going to be on the side of the right wing anyway. So it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. In fact, there could be right-wing factions in a left-wing government that would try to create a coup. That's seen throughout history and could totally happen in the U.S. But the biggest hurdle to that is the fact that we wouldn't have a left-wing government in the United States. We can't even have Bernie Sanders, and he's not even left-wing, really. In real life, he's not left-wing. So people that watch Fox News and CNN and the current people who push the Overton window the way it is, that they think Bernie's super left. He's not. I mean, if I ran for president, I would be like freaking Che Guevara compared to Bernie. I mean, that's just the truth of it. So, you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean like, whatever contrived shit about right wing, left wing doesn't mean it's the same. Like, for instance, pro. I believe in an armed working class, for instance. So that's pro gun. That's not a quote unquote left wing thing. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's about freedom and the individual liberties. All of those things, those talking points that the right wing talk about, but they don't really mean. I'm talking about like really meaning it, which means equal rights for LGBTQ and whatever, plus whatever you want to be and whatever. Just everyone should be treating each other with respect and dignity. I don't see why that's such a hard thing, and with equality. So I don't know. Like, it's like I don't understand what the big deal is with this. But let's see what else we have here. Mike says death will come along with overthrowing the government. They will fight and defend, and some people will fight for the government. That's true. Chris says for sure from the right wing. Mike says that will be a scary day and will change the world, I believe, is what. Not just U.S. or could even be the end of the American empire or world. Yeah, world. Chris agrees. I mean, if America had a civil war, it would have global impact for sure. And that's the other thing too. So there possibly could be, if let's say Trump 2020 really happens and there's a further right-wing shift in how things go, there's a possibility of a left-wing mobilization and the possibility of global support of a left-wing contingent, and that could cause issues. Who would lead it? I don't know. My biggest question is, how do you vet the people? Like, it's too easy for COINTELPRO and different people to infiltrate your organizations. How do you prevent that from happening? How do you prevent the government from hearing your conversations? How do you make sure that the person you're working with isn't part of the government? If you're doing anything, how do you know if you're trying to plan something? So it's just that these things are really tricky. Right-wing people are going to get more cover from the government by default. It's just going to happen because they use it that way. They use people in that way. Trump will be the president in 2020. At this rate, he can't lose. Yeah, I think Trump will be. There's so much discord on the non-Trump side of things, and Trump has become basically a cult leader at this point. So that might be a defining point. It might be basically a Trump-led type of thing. It's hard to say. It's just too hard to say about a civil war. The reality is that it might happen, but what would that look like? I just don't know. Like I said, could you still drive on the roads? How would you tell who's who? I mean, I don't know. Would you shoot somebody because they were on the other side of things? What would you do? I mean, those are some, I don't know. But what I do know is that I thank you guys for joining the Void tonight. Went an hour and a half, so a little bit longer than I thought. But next week, Wednesday, 9 p.m., we'll cover something else. I don't know if you got some topics you want to discuss. Let me know if you want to be on the Void as a guest contributor or co-host or whatever you want to do. Get in touch. Send me an email, DM, whatever way of getting in touch that you want. Put it in the comments, whatever is clever to you. But also, if you want to support the Void, Patreon, have a link. Superfan Chris has become first patron on Patreon. Thank you, Superfan Chris. And as a tribute to the patrons, if you are a patron, I will say your name at least a couple times during a show. And maybe in the future, I'll have a graphic that will have your name along with the play as I play the Seprock Beats song for the night or whatever instrumental. But I want to thank everybody. Thank you, Chris, for joining, and thank you for the compliment. Thank you, Superfans, Mike, Mark, had MC Louis V, and some other people waiting in the shadows, listening and watching, observing. Thank you for doing that. And thank you, Facebook folks. Enjoyed Seprock Beats, and I will see you guys on the flip side. Deuces.
This is my office. And my laboratory. Don't ever touch